All right, everybody. We'll get started here momentarily. All right. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a great topic on tap here. We've got a conversation with Chase Hodgson from Summit Funding. We'd like to chat a little bit about a hot topic of conversation, whether now is a good time to buy or not. There's all kinds of misconceptions, assumptions, misinformation that we'd like to address over the course of the day to help you make a good buying decision and make the process as streamlined as possible. I'm your host, Jerod Lee. I'm an associate broker and team lead with My Home Connection at Real Broker LLC. And appreciate you taking the time to talk a little bit about some of our considerations with interest rates, kind of where the economy's at, the conditions, the market timing in the real estate. The sponsor for today is going to be the perfect home buying process. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. Give you some offers to entertain to help making the home buying process a little bit easier. But with that, I'll introduce Chase. How you doing?
Fantastic, Jerod. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. I appreciate our chuckles earlier. Bring some levity to the conversation today.
Yeah.
What
The conversation is always good. Should probably be recorded, right? But oh well.
Yeah. You could do those. What are those snippets when you do a show and then they give you the outtakes or the?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what we need.
I'm full of those, man. Full of the outtakes.
Yeah. Well, good to have you. Like I said, we've got a topic that really needs to be discussed in the way of homeowners, potential homeowners, being on the fence, not knowing whether to move forward or not. So we really want to get into the details of what that looks like, things that they could miss, fast forward 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, the things that they wish they could have, should have known, the help that we can provide with that process. So with that, I want to talk just briefly on the sponsor again, the perfect home buying process. We've created a process whereby we just really want to streamline the whole process for you. Some of the things you'll see on the screen here are the basics of the program. Initially, you'll see that we're offering up to $1,000 to help you with your home inspection and your appraisal, give you peace of mind in the value of the home and the condition of the home. We're going to send you out different reports, property, community, neighborhood reports, active and exclusive off-market properties. We're going to send you a podcast series with all answers to most of, if not all of the questions that you're going to have during the home buying process, including sharing some secrets that you really need to know to help you feel comfortable with the different personalities involved in the home buying process. So at the end of the conversation, we'll chat with you on how to take advantage of the offers and the tools that we have here in the home buying process. With that, let's open things up. What's the normal concern that you have when you hear people say, hey, you know what, I'm going to put things on pause because the interest rates are high?
Well, affordability is number one, right, for everyone, I think, right now, and that has a lot to do with the interest rates. So looking at a more micro level, right, with Idaho's economy and Idaho's housing market as opposed to the rest of the nation, which I think we're all having. There's certain pockets that are different right now due to home level pricing, but currently in Idaho, right, we're experiencing high home prices, or historically what we would say are high home prices
Relative to historical numbers here.
Right. I mean, obviously, it's a supply and demand driven thing. It's very, very different than what we experienced in '08. We've had these conversations a number of times, and real estate really drove that and created this bubble. But right now, it's pure and simple economics, right? It's supply and demand. We don't have enough homes for the people that want to live here, and that's vastly true across the United States, which is the interesting thing, because if you look at the cross sections of the generations, Up until now, baby boomers have been by far the largest generation that we've experienced. Well, right now we're getting, into leaving millennials into Gen Z, and the cross section of those home buyers, from 32 to 34, which is where they're, on average they're starting to buy homes now. That group is 10 million stronger than any generation that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just look at that number, you can tell that, okay, we're not going to have enough homes for those people because we've never built that many before.
Yeah, and if we've got a constraint on inventory now, so lack of homes, which specifically in our Boise area, the Treasure Valley market, we've never had enough homes in the grand scheme of things. So if the person that says I want to wait till interest rates come down, there's a few concerns, right? One, are they relative to the historical average? Sevens are our historical average.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to take ourselves out of the mindset of this is high because I've seen threes, fours, fives. Well, that's nice, but that was an oddity. That was uncommon. That was rare, and to get back to that isn't a sure thing. So hope not being a strategy. If you're going to hope it's going to go back to the sixes, fives, or fours, the likelihood really isn't there. So if you, as a potential home buyer, say, I'm going to wait, that may never happen. Even if it does happen, to your point, Chase, is you've got this pent up demand. It's an absolutely aggressive, severe, if not, a very extreme demand that we're going to have. As soon as they start coming down at all, almost any market expert, industry expert will tell you that that demand is going to start coming on, right? People are going to want to pounce on that now, do lower interest rate. Now you don't have enough homes to meet that need, and we're back to where we were in the COVID pricing. Maybe not that aggressive, but you can't you can't expect that the prices aren't going to go back up. So yeah, your interest rate started coming back down, but very quickly on the heels of that, your pricing starts going up.
Yeah, and I think that's probably my biggest fear. I think, and I do a lot of studying. I'm kind of a geek when it comes to numbers. A degree in economics, and so I'm really watching the statistics and the numbers and the historical data and evidence that we have. And I'm a little fearful. Like moving forward as a nation, our biggest problem is going to be affordable housing. Especially in these pockets of the country that are still super hot as far as demand for real estate. The job market, the pay levels have not kept up and increased at the same level that our real estate has, right?
Yeah.
So we have to figure that problem out. But in the meantime, you're 100% correct. We are I don't want to guarantee that rates are going to come down. There's no crystal ball. However, if you look at historical data and economically speaking, the trends that you watch, right? So inflation is followed by interest rates. So as the inflation has risen over the past few months, so have the interest rates. Well, inflation can't stay up. At some point it has to come down, whether it's a crash or whether it's led by the current administration and the Fed policies. Inflation has to come down because we're reaching the levels where it's getting very difficult for people, living paycheck to paycheck, affording food, fuel, and those things. So as inflation comes down, again, interest rates will follow, and they will come down with the inflation.
Yeah, well, you said a couple of interesting things there, and one is, I hear this common theme of I'm waiting for the market to crash so that homes get more affordable. I think we have to address that first and foremost because that's another hope, and that hope is not built on anything of any kind of evidence. The opposite is true. We've had a correction here in the market, right? Since July of last year, we were overpriced because we had people throwing briefcases of cash at homes, paying tens of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars over market. Okay, once the market slowed down, we corrected. I would say on average about $90,000 to $100,000 in home values, and that was just to get us to where we should be. Okay, and then
if you're to look at the trending on home prices nationwide, it goes up at a certain percentage. Like if it's a graph, you can watch it, come up at about a 45 from the 50s, right? That's just how real estate is appreciated. And there's been a couple of anomalies, right? If you draw a trend line, and then the housing basically has just risen and dropped just slightly above and below that trend line. And then we've had a couple of anomalies like 2008 with the bubble that was created. And then again over the last couple of years, because like you say, I call it the great political migration, right? But it doesn't matter what party or what side you're on. It's just that's really what's driven a lot of the real estate demand in certain areas. And so with that, we had a hyper increase, right, over the past couple of years, because people just, no matter what the price was, they wanted a house. And again, that was also driven by a low supply. There weren't enough houses here for the people that wanted, so they were bidding whatever they had to do to get a house and get out of where they were coming from. We had people living in hotels waiting for homes, a number of different things. And so to your point, that gave us that kind of hyper increase in rate or in pricing. And so what we've seen is that adjustment over the months, it's trickling down to that trend line to where it should have been in the first place.
Yeah, and interestingly, I'll have two drastically different conversations about the same home with the same price. So if I'm talking with somebody that's a native here, been here a long time, they're trying to help their kids get in the market or whatever it might be, they're frustrated that our home values have escalated so high, and they're quite frustrated about the situation. Understandably so, because it's drastically different than it was 5, 10, 20 years ago. But that same home at that same price, I'll talk to somebody relocating to another from another market, and they'll say, "Oh, your home prices are kind of in alignment with where we're at." Two totally different perspectives about the same home and the same price. But my point is, really, where we are at is probably where we should have been, as it relates to the national market. So, again, I don't think home prices have adjusted. The numbers show that we're about corrected. In some cases they're actually going back up again. So to foresee a crash, an 08, 09 meltdown again, that was a once in a multi-generation thing. So to have the hope that it's going to happen.
I think that's the likelihood that it's multi-generational. We don't see that very often. But I also think that external factors are pressing on us now that we haven't seen before either, right? So we can all that we can do as home buyers, as people in the industry, all that we can do is look at the data that we have available to us, right? We can look at the historical data. We can look at the pricing data, the interest rate data, and formulate some kind of an opinion on what you should do in the market. Now, job market has changed dramatically how people transact, right? There's so many people that can work remotely. So that's to what you were talking about in our locals, seeing that or feeling like the prices have got too high. Well, our job market here and our pay rate has not increased as quickly as the real estate pricing has. But a lot of the people that are living here and moving here now hold jobs in other states that have a different pay rate, right? And so that's making up a lot of the difference. There's just a number of external factors. I think we've seen a lot of changes as we work and live over the past few years with what happened with COVID. That's changing, the dynamic of how we live and how we buy and sell real estate.
Yep. Yeah. Well, let's take it to the next logical conclusion here. So, I think most would agree. We've had the correction. Prices are probably going to be what it is. We don't see it dropping. The one thing that can adjust is your rate, right? So even if let's agree that the rate is high, or certainly higher than you'd like it to be, but there's now a concern. Fast forward 12 months, that your price is going to go up, because if the demand comes on, we have a frenzy again, and values start coming up. The pricing is going to get more and more fixed, likely, unless we have another correction or something like that. Right. But if let's just use, I guess, 7 as a number, an interest rate. right? So you can afford the house at the current price, at the current rate. Might not be the forever home, but you're in the market. You've got a home, all the benefits of a home, which we'll talk about in another podcast. But you fast forward a while, and now rates have come down to 6 or 5 or what have you. Then you have the ability to control your costs associated to your living arrangement, where you don't in a rental situation. So yes, you're qualifying for high rates, but you also have the flexibility in the future of either in the future bringing down your rate when you refinance, or what I think a lot of people miss is that with the uncertainty that is in the market for some of the sellers, we can actually ask them for a rate buy down. So we didn't have that, certainly a year and a half to 2 years ago. We would have, as agents, never been able to ask sellers for any what we call a seller contribution or rate buy down, interest rate buy down. Today we can ask for those things, and we're getting those things. So yes, even if your rate is 7 or whatever it might be, we can ask the sellers for X dollars. I'll ask you, hey, Chase, can you help me out with a number that we can take to the seller to buy down that rate to 6.5, 6, whatever, we feel like we can negotiate from the sellers. So it's no longer 7, it's maybe 6 or what have you. And by the way, that's a permanent rate buy down, or we can do some things with some 3-2-1 buy downs for the first year, second year, third year rate buy down. So things I think that a lot of people aren't aware of to help ease that a little bit.
No, absolutely. There's a lot of options right now. I think when you talk about timing the market, waiting for the crash, nobody really knows they can't tell you with 100% surety what's going to happen. All we can look again is at the historical data and the things that have happened. The likelihood of us having a crash is not very high right now. We just like the numbers we went over earlier. There just is too many people needing a place to live. So we have all that supply, or we have all that demand and not enough supply. So that's just basic economics. That means prices go up. So it has slowed as interest rates have creeped up. But if you're trying to time that crash, I can tell you, so few people have ever been able to do that. When you decide it's time to buy, it's too late and things have gone up. What I think folks need to understand is that the situation you have right now, yes, interest rates are high. If you can afford to buy, I personally believe it's the right thing to do. You may have a higher rate and a higher payment for a few months to a year, depending on some of the administration policies and some of the external factors happening around the world and how that affects our local and our national economies. But when the rates start to come down, we talk about it a lot, and when it hits the 5s again, it's going to be bananas. I think at this point, since we've hit 8 on a national average, I think that once we get into the 6s, we're going to see buyers flood the market again, and that will vastly drive prices up. In that first year of COVID, we had 30, 40, 50, $100,000 appreciation because the demand was so high and people offering over asking and all of those things. I truly think we could see that situation again. And so as a buyer, you're looking at, okay, do I make a higher payment for a few months, or do I pay $50,000 to $100,000 more for the same house in 6 to 12 months? Right. So if you look at it in a financial perspective, the amount extra, if you're paying, $300, $400, $500, $600, dollars more a month in payment versus paying $50,000 extra, right? That's a big flip. You'd have to pay a lot of months, right, to make up that $50,000 difference. A lot of months in extra payment. The other thing is that if you buy now you receive that appreciation. Now you've gained that $50,000 equity in your home over that 6 to 12 months, and those are just numbers, right? We don't really know what it's going to appreciate. Those are some, we've seen numbers that drastic here in the recent past. And so I think it's a possibility. And so my philosophy, and I'm not, I stole it from somebody else. I've seen it 100 times. The best time to buy real estate was yesterday. The next best time is today. right? It's one of those things. If you wait and try to time the market, you're going to miss out on opportunity to gain equity, or to even in today's market to even find a house, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about, even if certainly if a buyer came to us and said, "Hey, should I buy?" I'm leaning towards not buying right now. When we look at their overall situation, circumstances, because each individual is different, we will certainly communicate that, hey, you know what, you're right. You and your circumstances should wait, whatever that for that whatever that reason is.
Right.
It still doesn't change the fact that they should absolutely be speaking with you today, because if they speak with you in 6 months or 12 months, whenever they are ready, whenever they feel like that the market's adjusted or whatever things came into alignment that they were hoping for, they could still find out they're 3 to 6 months out from accomplishing their goals, because they missed what their credit score was at, where their DTI was at, what things they could do to improve their overall position. Because if they speak with you today, they can buy, within their circumstances whenever they want. So to at least get an understanding of your personal individual situation sooner than later, that's kind of a no-brainer recommendation.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the most frustrating things about my job, and it's not necessarily people, but it's lack of education, right? Like this this country does not do a good job with financial literacy, from grade school, high school, college, any of it. We're not educating our youth, and so we don't know how important your FICO score is. We don't even know the definition of it and how to increase it, and how a lot of parents. So my parents, that generation was like, oh, don't get debt. You don't need a credit card. You don't want a credit card. And I agree with that. You want to minimize your debt, but you have to use debt in order to build your score, because the big ticket items that you want to buy require that score, right? They require that history, that credit history. And so, unfortunately, right now, a majority of the buyers that I deal with, they don't know. They don't have that education. So it takes a while to get their credit score where it needs to be in order for them to qualify to purchase, right? And there's things that we can do. Sometimes it's a quick fix. Sometimes it takes 6, 8, 12 months to do. So the sooner you get in that, and that's why one of the things that I built is my homebuyer club, right? So first time home buyers, you come see me. If you're not ready to buy, you go into the homebuyer club, and we give you homework to do. We check back in with you. We help you along that pathway to home ownership, because I personally believe, and it's not just my belief, but it's from my own experience. I own a primary residence. I own investment properties. Real estate is the first and best way to start to build wealth.
Yep.
Yeah, and you can do it, but for a lot of people, their only real estate that they'll ever own is their primary residence.
Yeah, and we'll have a podcast about around that. So definitely subscribe, follow to hear why it is that home ownership real estate is definitely the one of the best ways to wealth growth, accumulation. So the other point, one key thing that you said earlier is, what is your FICO score relative to the big purchases? Everybody thinks, oh, my credit's fine, but what they don't realize is their score as it relates to when they buy a TV or something at Best Buy, or a car or a house. Those numbers can be different, and there certainly can be different than what like a Credit Karma or something along those lines will share with you. So to make assumptions that you're ready based upon your knowledge of where your credit's at, where your DTI is at, may not be with alignment with where the expectations of the lenders are at, right? Mm-hmm. You might have heard information 6 months ago, and now they've drastically changed today. And if you're not up to speed on that, that could really kind of throw you for a loop.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we're lucky here in Idaho. We have a great agency in Idaho Housing that provides great programs for first-time home buyers or home buyers in a certain income bracket. And so with a lower credit score, you can still purchase a home, right? Those that don't qualify for those programs, You may think your credit's great. Oh, I've got a 680, and that's a great credit score. But guess what? You can get a better interest rate if you're at a 720, 740, or 760. So there's always ways to improve, and so we like to help people along that path. And the other thing that I definitely see a lot is, especially with first-time home buyers, and again, it goes to lack of just knowledge of what programs are available to them. Oh, my credit's not good enough. I'm only a 630 or 640. With Idaho housing in Idaho, I mean, and there's a couple other states around the nation that have these similar programs. You can still buy a home,
Yep.
right? And it's not a drastically high rate because you have a lower credit score, because their programs, provide that they make up the difference in that.
Yeah.
So again, it's you don't know until you've had those conversations with somebody that does this for a living.
Yeah, and I would say we put that on our podcast agenda to have that very conversation. What do I need? Where do I need to buy a home? I think a lot of the assumptions around that are inaccurate. I think perceptions of that scores are higher than they need to be. To your point, I think the down assumptions, the amount down, are closer to the 20% mark in most people's minds. Which, with help of institutions like Idaho Housing, we can get closer to the 0.5% in some cases. So anyway, we'll have a podcast around that. But I think, again, this is all valuable information that you as a potential home buyer need to know sooner than later, so that you can make good decisions rather than waiting until you think the timing's right and then realizing you've kind of missed the mark, or you could have done it a year or two ago and benefited from appreciation, or the
Right.
different things that come with home ownership. So, well, Chase, we're coming up on the half an hour mark here, so trying to be sensitive to people's time. We're going to just kind of wrap things up real quick here with talking about how do you take advantage of the perfect home buying process. Again, these are the items that you'll receive from that. This is just in our experience what we've seen to make a home buying process as seamless as possible. The easiest way to do that, certainly liking, subscribing to whatever platform you're seeing this on, gets admittance to that. And then just reach out to us on our websites, on the MHC, so myhomeconnection.com, myhomeconnection.com. Right at the top right here, you've got both the phone number and the email. Just send us a quick text or email or comment on the platform. More information on the perfect home buying process, and we'll get you enrolled in that. And then, by the way, both Chase and I will have valuable information on our websites for just purchasing a home in general. Neighborhood information in the different areas within the Treasure Valley. Buying and selling, listings, certainly home searches, searching for different types of homes, condos, townhomes, single families, things like that. And then even lifestyle information associated to, the things to do here in Idaho, hiking, biking, things like that. And then you can find Chase at summitfunding.net. And then Chase's contact information will be available here. And then, of course, the ability to apply as well. So just feel free to comment or reach out to us, and we'll get you started on that. Open an initial conversation, no obligation. A conversation will go a long way to helping you out.
Absolutely.
Well, Chase, Absolutely. We certainly appreciate your time today and information, and we'll just look forward to serving our mutual clients.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on, Jerod. It's always fun. Well, conversation is always great. So I look forward to the next time.
Very good. Thanks, Chase. All right, everybody. Have a blessed one.